What's up, Denise? Okay. Give me one more minute, make sure I got everything right here. How is everybody doing? Hi. How you doing? Hi. All right. Okay. Let's go ahead and get started here. All right. Hi, my name is Daryl Phillips, owner of Noir Apologia Gaming, and what we do here is listening to talk. So, hope everybody's day was good. Mine was better than it has been. It still wasn't that good of a day. I rested half the day. I took a 2-hour nap from like 1 to 3. My pain sometimes gets overwhelming, and it's time for me to go lay down for a little bit. But I was able to get my Facebook Live and my Instagram Live done this morning. Good, Denise. And my stomach. This is the first meal when she cooked some potato, cheesy potato, like stroganoff, or not stroganoff, like scallop potatoes, at about 5 o'clock or something like that, and I was actually able to eat it without pain. Ooh, first meal I've had in a while, probably 4 or 5 days that I haven't had pain after I eat, so that's good. But and thanks to Lori. Lori helped me with some kratom. I wanted to have her go and drive me across the street for some, so it helps me with my joint pain and stuff like that, because I'll be without tramadol till Monday, so I'll have to get through that. But it's better. Trust me when I tell you, joint pain is better than the pain I've been experiencing in my stomach. So I think that's getting better. So thank God. But I hope everybody's day went well today. I see Denise is here. Everybody that's on here, let me know who's on here. Lori, Tanya, whatever. And if you're new here, let me know your name and I'll shout you out. I don't really have anything specific to talk about. It's just stuff that's on my mind. You know, I because of the presidential election, I've been having to listen to a lot of politics. And I'm not necessarily going to get political today, but it did get me to thinking about the idea of some people's way of teaching people. It's just really bothersome to me. I understand, you know, they say that the pathway, what's the old saying? Hey, what's up, Lori? They say the pathway to hell is paved with good deeds, or with righteous deeds. That's a true statement. Because, I mean, when you think about all the most horrific acts in human history, a lot of them didn't start out as horrific. A lot of them were people that thought they knew better than the people they were trying to help, and they weren't listening to the people they're trying to help, and they ended up doing atrocities. Some people were evil. Like I would say, Hitler became evil. But whether you guys want to admit this or not, Hitler at first did do everything he said he was going to do. He saved his country, and then he became a freaking oppressor. Now, in general, his entire point was to annihilate the Jews, because he saw that was the problem. It was, one, a lack of education. I mean, to have that perspective is just, I don't even know I can't even describe what that is in someone's head. But when you think one group is the problem, okay, one group of people is the problem. I'm talking about specific ethnicity or even culture. It's not the ethnicity and the culture that's the problem per se. It might look from the outside that, like, for example, I don't mean to be touchy about this, but it might seem from the outside that a lot of Arab people, Muslims, are evil. Now, They aren't evil. I know. I have met Muslims before. But the fact is, their religion does teach certain things. And what ends up being with the end result of that is the most extreme versions of it. And it's like that with everybody who learns something, okay? So take what me and Duan and Sophia and anyone else here that's joining me in this endeavor to try to help people. It's frustrating. Let's just be honest. It is frustrating when you're trying to help someone and they're not listening. That the decision making of their past has gotten them in a certain situation, right? But yet they think that they're capable of making that decision. They're like, in other words, they don't want to change what they're doing. In other words, they want help. They want the immediate satisfaction of help. But they don't want to listen to what you have to say as far as maybe some things that they need to be doing in their life that are different. Like, I don't know, Daryl, don't drink. Well, I'm just saying, I got told to me all the time, Daryl, go to church, kind of thing. So take my life, for example. I can't tell you how many times that I was too hard-headed back in my past to my mom. Mom, I'm fine. Daryl, Mom, you don't understand. You don't understand what it's like to be on the streets. I love that. That's my favorite one. That's me and Dwan's favorite one. You don't understand because you weren't homeless. So let me get this straight. For you to understand Daryl, you have to have bipolar disorder and you have to be homeless? That's nice. What's... That's stupid. You know that's not true. Will you understand? Of course not. You haven't been homeless. You maybe you're not bipolar. But can you empathize with me? Me and Tanya just had this conversation. She knows she can't understand me. Denise can't understand me in that way. Sophia can't understand me in that way. But if you would ask me who understands me the most, it's those people right there, people like that. Because they try to listen to me. And I, in turn, listen to them. And it's respect for respect. Now, the truth is respect is earned. It's not given. I'm not just gonna give you my respect just because you ask for it. You have to earn it. And I would expect to do the same for you. In other words, that rule goes for you too. That why should you respect me? One of the things I keep bringing up over and over again, just to get through your head, is trust. Trust is time, consistency, and repetition. You cannot trust me unless those things exist. Okay? And so, man, speaking of my stomach, all of a sudden, I love how I say that my stomach doesn't bother me, and all of a sudden my stomach starts bothering me. Oh, God. Anyway, but the thing about what I've learned over my life, especially since I learned that I could teach. I mean, I'm talking about, it's been a while now. I mean, since 2000. About when you're trying to teach anyone, even a friend, even someone you love, so maybe even a child, whatever, is that in no circumstance, unless there's a fire and you have to order them to get out of the house, do you take away self-choice. You say, Daryl, but what if it's for their own good? Who the hell are you to say that's for their own good? That sounds pretty dictatorial. That's what every dictator in history has ever said. They always say that. They always say, it's for the people's good. It's for the people's good. Well, we become little dictators in our own life because we have someone who we love, or a child, or a mom and dad, or whatever it is, and we will act like a dictator, and then we don't like it when we're dictated to. We don't see the there's a rub there. You can't be like that. Okay. So what I've learned, and I assure you, it's not easy for me. It's not easy for me to want to help somebody. again, I'll bring up Megan. She knows the deal. I've talked to her. She knows how bad I feel about it. But she's also told me the one thing I try to tell you guys. She believes me when I tell her that I'm going to try to help her. She just knows it won't be right now. And she talks to me every day. Now, I have a feeling she's going to be talking to me less nowadays because of the situation she's in. But what I've discovered, and what my country, specifically the United States, was founded on, is the idea of self-choice. Why was that so important to the founding fathers? Anybody wanted to answer that question? Why was the ability to have self-choice so important to them? Now I'm going to continue talking. You guys answer that question. I want to see your guys' answers. Okay, I want to see what you guys have to say about this. And for a person like Denise who doesn't live in this country, you might not necessarily know the answer to that question so much, but you'll understand when I say it. It was by the way, this is from the Bible. I know, atheists, I get it. We're not a Christian nation, I get it. Tell me something. What is power? Anybody want to answer that question? I'll wait. Answer that question first. What is power? What is power? What is power? What does that mean? Now, I'll answer that question. I want your guys' answers, though. Okay, I want this to be a discussion tonight now. I want this to be a back and forth so you understand, so we're having a conversation. It's not just Daryl showing you this. I want you to use your synapses and think about it. Actually think about it, and it should help you in your own life. Why, in no way, shape, or form should you ever leave a person without an option. Okay? Power, real power, is like what God has. Human beings think they have power. They use their authority as power, and God allows them to do that. And there's certain rules of how applied, because unfortunately, we are created in the image and likeness of God, which means there are several aspects of God that we have. Okay? No. That's not what power is. I'm talking about actual power. So let's use this in a physical sense, Denise. Yes, I suppose in a way it could be determination. But I'm talking about, like, for example, what gives a government power over its people? What gives you power over your child? What gives your parent power over you? Very simple. You can replace the word power with authority. Okay? Now, some people think they have authority when they do not. Some people have used their wealth, for example, and they think that's the definition of power. It's only powerful to people who do not have wealth or who allow them to have power over them. Power can only be applied to anyone that can actually use it. So, Denise, you're 5,000 miles away from me. I can look at you, and trust me, Denise is tiny. Sorry. I could look at Denise and say, Denise, I have the power over you because I can beat your ass. You're tiny, I'm bigger than you, and I promise you I could. Now, that's power, because it's true. But it only works if I use that power, okay, to get her to do whatever I want her to do. So let's use Denise in my relationship. Now remember, Denise is 5,000 miles away. So technically speaking, the only way I actually have power over her in that way is if she allows it. because she's 5,000 miles away and she could block me on every social media site that I have and never come on this again. And then I just lost my power because I can't get to her. See, you only have people that control you if you allow it. It's hard. Like one of the first things you realize when you're growing up is it's hard to make a decision for the first time when you're a child and you're going out into the world and there's the first time that you don't agree with something your mother and father say, but now you actually do have authority over on your own life by law even. It's hard to look at your mother and father in the face and say, no, mom and dad, I don't want to go to college right now. That's hard. Then your mom and dad will give you a guilt trip about how they saved since you were born. They saved for your college since you were born. How could you do this to us? Because I never asked you. You never bothered to ask if I ever wanted to go to college, not one time. How many parents do you know do that to their children? How many children do you know? Yes, Lori. Bingo. Said like a true American. Lori's the only one that's got that right so far. Well, Tanya just got on here, but Lori's got that right. Government, now there is a such thing as governments do, even by God's standards, have authority over you. There are laws in place. They have the right to give you a ticket if you speed. They have the right to take you to jail if you steal, or so forth and so on. But again, even laws, man's laws, are only applicable if they are applied, if they are enforced. So, for example, the speed limit is only an effective tool if the cop is willing to pull you over. People that kill other people, murder is only as good as the people enforcing it. So, for example, when God says, "Thou shalt not kill," do you think he has the authority and the power to actually do what he says, which is, oh, you're going to burn for the rest of your life, for your rest of eternity, if you do these things? Yeah. It's man who has that weakness. That's the difference. Man shows bias. It's man who does that. So, for example, I like Denise, and I like Lori, and I like Tanya. And so maybe I have you guys in my special little group over here. Now you got all these people over here stealing and murdering, but we're doing the same. We're stealing and murdering people. But I don't care if you guys do it. You're my friends. How many times have you guys seen that? We're little Joey over here. Not my son, not my daughter. My son and my daughter would never do such a thing. And of course, they're never guilty when they go to court. You can have that perspective if you want. If there's enough evidence and the court of law says you're guilty of that crime, I don't care what your mother and father said you did that crime. There's enough evidence to show you did do it. The problem with human beings is it's when we want to try to help people. See, we know how to oppress other people. We're really good at human beings are really good at oppressing other people. See, let me give you guys just a tiny little history of this so to get you to understand why God even had to put laws in reference to governments. That's right, Lori. Second one in a row. Lori, you get a brownie today. Said like a true Texan. God, I love you, Lori. Great job. Great job. Great job, Lori. That was great answers. Both answers were great. Perfection and perfection. And y'all listen to Lori here now. I'm not playing now. What she just said there is the central theme of the idea of authority and how do you prevent oppression? Technically speaking, you can't, because in what one person's oppression is maybe not your version of oppression. It's who has. Where do you get your authority from? Oh, now we just got religious. See, because without God, you got your authority from yourself then. So really, without God, you couldn't even really be a parent, because who told you that it's wrong for a child to disobey you? Why is it wrong to murder? So what? I don't like you. I want to kill you. I want your shit. I'm gonna take your shit. Where do I get the authority to arrest you for murder? Without God. That's why he allowed rules with government. That's why he says it's good for man to obey their governing authorities. But man can become oppressive. So how do you prevent it? Well, education. I keep talking about education, y'all. What I'm teaching you guys, the slow bits and pieces I'm teaching you about history, slip it in there, is for you guys to understand that this is, you think there's nothing new under the sun, God. We are creative beings, but we're not so creative as we're creating new ways. We just have more unique ways of committing the same types of sins, same types of evils against each other. I can give you so many similarities to this world today, to be honest with you, we're in the throes. This is my view, all right? Just my unique knowledge of history in combination with what I see and what I listen to. We are, boy, I tell you, it rhymes so much. It's like Samuel Clemens said, history doesn't repeat itself, but it sure does rhyme. In this case, boy, the rhyme's good. The period of time between Marius and the rise of Augustus Caesar, the first emperor of Rome, there's about 100 years period of time. That period of time, that I feel like we're in that time right now. 100 years of civil war. You say, well, no, we're not in a civil war yet. Have you guys been seeing what's been going on college campuses? This just gets worse, and they have no intention upon stopping it. In Aurora, Colorado, there are Venezuelan gangs taking over apartment buildings, and the Democratic governor, it's always the Democrats, says, no, nothing to see here. And the mayor is going, really, dude? And there's video of people coming into the apartment complexes and taking over the apartment complexes in the United States. Like I said, laws are only as good as the people enforcing them. But there's a reason why they won't. They need more voters. It's called cheating. What they want, what the Democrats' plan is perfect. It's going to be up to us to stop it. Because if you're in a state, in the United States I'm talking about, if you're in a state that has a Democratic leaders in it, this is their plan. Nancy Pelosi just said it 2 days ago. They plan on taking all of these illegal aliens that came over, 20 million of them? Making them all citizens of the United States, giving them free shit, and now they just got their voters. And we will never see another Republican anything ever again. That's their plan. They can't win without cheating. They can't cheat like they did the last time. And the reason why I bring this up isn't to bring up politics. It's to show you this is how man thinks. See if this sounds familiar. What I just told you, remember what I just told you about them wanting to make them American citizens and then getting them to vote. Octavian added 50, 60, 70 new senators to the Roman Senate. All of them his creatures. All of them his creatures. And so he threw some games, had the people distracted, and all unbeknownst to anybody, he was sucking up power into himself the whole time, and still had the illusion of a Senate. And that is the definition of the princeps system. It lasted from Augustus Caesar to Commodus. This illusion of that there's voting and no. Now the true emperors, what you think of an emperor, happened after Commodus, but the princeps system, that's why Augustus Caesar was the first emperor of Rome. Now, think about what I said to you. I've told this story when the founding fathers were negotiating the Constitution. They wanted slavery abolished then. Now, you're never going to hear that taught in American schools right now. I'm telling you. Go look it up. Go do fact checks. They wanted, among many other things that they didn't like, they wanted slavery abolished. Because how can you say, this is something that always is confusing to people, how can you say, and that God endowed us with certain inalienable rights, and everybody having that involved, but then still have slaves? How do you reconcile those two? Well, they understood that. And people like John Adams and the Adams family, not Adams family, John Adams, Samuel Adams, John Adams' son, John Quincy Adams, and then, of course, a young lawyer by the name of Abraham Lincoln. But the Adams family, they knew they were never going to get the United States, all 13 colonies, to sign that damn thing. The South made it very clear that you're not going to tell us what to do with our property. See, they had already been so perverted. See, the British Empire had imported so many slaves here that they considered them property. This was a property rights thing, not a human rights thing. And that's the part that a lot of people just cannot wrap their mind around, because we've changed, because we've become a better nation, because we're not racist like everybody says we are. We can't imagine a time where we looked at other human beings as property. So, because they said, they were talking about voting, right? The abolitionists like John Adams and Benjamin Franklin and those people like that, they wanted the slaves, black people, slaves specifically, to be counted as 0 on the voting. 0 is the number. And the South, who had the slaves, wanted them to be counted as the number 1. And this is where American education has purposely twisted this into some racist thing, because they want our founding fathers to be painted as racist. And it's an incorrect perspective, and I will not have it around me. So here's some education for the day. It was not about race. It was about votes. They wanted black people to be counted as zero. The ones that wanted slavery abolished, zero. And the ones that wanted slaves wanted them to be counted as one. And if you were to press this issue on someone who actually believes, who's been indoctrinated into that false belief that says that black people were counted as 3/4 of a human, ask them this question. Why did people that wanted slavery abolished wanted them to be counted as zero then? They didn't want them to be counted as a vote at all because they knew slavery would never be abolished. Had the South got their way and it had black people been counted as one full vote, slavery would still be in existence to this day. For the same reason why they're doing it now. By the way, this is the Democratic Party, by the way. The great party of black people. The Democratic Party came into existence what was their platform? Their first platform was we want a northern man with a southern man's mind. I'll let you figure that one out. They knew having a southern president was bad business because slavery was a big topic. People wanted the North wanted it no slaves and the South wanted it to have slaves. And so instead of having this, they wanted to not discuss the issue at all. They never wanted it to come up again. They wanted the South to do what it did, and they want the North to do what it did, and they had no intention on abolishing slavery. But what the founding fathers did was, when they made it be counted as 3/4 of a person, in our heads, in our human heads, they knew it would make it was this issue of slavery would never go away. Unfortunately, they also knew the consequences of not getting it done then. That because they couldn't get it done in the original Constitution of the United States of America, they knew that eventually civil war would come. That this would end up in civil war. Because you have one place down here. Did you know that a long time ago the South actually thought Abraham Lincoln was a tyrant? That's why they murdered him. That's why right before John Wilkes Booth killed Abraham Lincoln, he said, "Sic semper tyrannis," thus ever to tyrants. That's why he said that. And understand this. So the Civil War was fought. South lost. And South was in a state of unbelievable poor. You talk about poor. The North's plan to defeat the South was a pretty effective and very much it was to shatter the South. See, before the Civil War, the South had all the money. That's one of the reasons why the North just didn't want to let them go and piss them off, because they had all the money. But then the South became poor. And that's when you get the rise of the KKK, that sort of thing. That eventually would go, and that would be replaced by, time would go by, so the South would be rebuilt, and it would be called, to Lori's point, what she said about Democrat, the South was called the Solid South. What that means is they were solidly Democratic. Okay? Means that that's what they voted for, was Democrat. But they had somewhat changed their ways, somewhat. And actually, mostly, one of the reasons why the South was so poor is because they had this really evil philosophy. like I said, you cannot force a person to do right. Okay? So even though slavery was abolished, it left the South devastated. And they had this really messed up policy, the Southern governors and stuff like that, where they said, you feed them, you feed them. And they wouldn't feed them. They wouldn't. There's a reason why a lot of black people live in Chicago and places like that, because the South wouldn't take them anymore. And then right around the time of the Civil War, something else was going on. Nowhere near here, in Europe, actually. Two things, actually. So at the same time as our Civil War was going on, two men came to prominence. Charles Darwin and Karl Marx. At the same time. And for those of you who are not familiar with those two, clearly Karl Marx is the progenitor of Marxism, and Charles Darwin is the progenitor of evolution. And then they started mixing their belief systems. And so you had different versions of socialism. So you had the most extreme versions, which would be communism and then Nazism. But I'll tell you one of our dirty little secrets, the Americans, and I didn't even know this. And off the top of my head, I don't even remember the name of the man. I'd have to look this up. But he's the father of modern day American conservationism. One of the defenses when the Nazis were on trial after World War II, one of the things that they said to the Americans was, well, we got the idea from you guys. Got the idea from us. Yeah. The father of conservationism combined. This guy was amazing. He just became twisted in his beliefs. He did some great things, and then he became twisted in his beliefs. This guy, he's the one who created the Bronx Zoo in New York. He, places like that. So he created what you call modern day conservationism. Teddy Roosevelt fell into his trap. Teddy Roosevelt, of course, I do believe loved this country, unlike many socialists do not love this country. I don't think Kamala Harris loves this country. I don't believe many of the Democrats in party love our country. But Teddy Roosevelt did. Okay, so did his cousin that was equally as socialist, FDR. But Teddy Roosevelt, he loved this country. He loved the beauty of this country. So he loved conservationism. So he fell in this trap of falling for this guy's ideas. And he actually, even though he failed, he actually was the first president, even before FDR, his cousin, to run for a third term. But he ran underneath another party. He didn't run underneath Republican or Democrat. He ran underneath the Bull Moose Party, which was a socialist party. You say, Daryl, what's your point in all this? You're seeing it right now. I'm showing you the history of all this. I'm sorry, it's long. My bad. So Teddy Roosevelt was the first one. But now he failed in his attempt to run for a third party. But then you have the rise of Woodrow Wilson. What a disgusting piece of shit. I hate Woodrow Wilson as much as I can't stand some of the modern day people today. I might even would vote for Kamala Harris before Woodrow Wilson, from what I understand. Woodrow Wilson did not love this country. He hated everything there was to know about this country. He thought he knew better than American people. He hated the Constitution. He came up with the phrase, the living Constitution. Who do you think came up with that phrase? It was Woodrow Wilson. Severe racism started to pop up here right around the time of his presidency. The Jim Crows came into existence. The Monkey Scopes trial happened. If you don't know what that is, that was when evolutionists took creationists to court so that they could get evolution taught in schools. That happened in 1920 something or other, 1927. shortly before the Depression. So all this is going on at the same time as World War I. I don't know what progressives and socialists' obsession with war is, except for this. This is their number one goal in war. Is while all the boys are out fighting for us, the people that have the guns and that are holding the guns are a long ways away. Now we can change the country and there will be no resistance. In Woodrow Wilson's time, and then FDR would be the next one to really do some severe changes to this country. But Woodrow Wilson, I was looking at the state where he's from because I was trying to figure this stuff out. That's right. That's how I do my studying. This is how I do my stuff. That's how I figure out stuff. Woodrow Wilson's from Maine. I was looking at his state before he became president, and while he was president. His state changed so fundamentally when he became to power that you can tell. You can tell the difference between Maine before he came to power and after he came to power. They were utterly different. They were utterly in the bag for Democrats. By that point, Maine will never be a red state, ever. They've been a blue state for 100 years, and they'll never change that. That's when the North started changing to blue, and the South started changing to red. See, at that point, the Democrats still voted, the South still voted for Democrats. That's why unfortunately, because of our past, the South gets called racist all the time still. Because in the past, that was true. That the South had a bad habit of, hell, some of the worst incidences in American history happened in Dallas, Texas in the 1960s. I'm not proud of that. I wasn't born, though. How am I to blame for that? My mom wasn't to blame for that. No, and Lori's told me stories about during those days. No, we're not to blame for that. We didn't do that. But there was a lot of racism here. That was thanks to Democrats. In fact, that's what Glenn Beck was talking about, that Dwight D. Eisenhower. No, not Dwight D. Eisenhower. Lyndon B. Johnson. LBJ was the most, dude, Glenn Beck was talking about that the N-word came out of LBJ's mouth more than any other president in history. He used to call black people the N-word all the time. I don't understand why black people would ever look up to that man, but they do. To this day, they've been so indoctrinated that LBJ saved them. LBJ blocked the civil rights movement stuff before he ever signed anything when he became president. And he only ever became president because someone got murdered in office. No, LBJ was a racist, dude. Sorry, Texas people. He was an awful human being. He would never be around my mother. I promise you that. My mom never told me that. My point is, that's why you see things. That's why we get accused of these things to this day, because people think that we're still the same way. People that have never even been to my state. You know, from the moment I arrived in Wisconsin, for whatever reason, they used to call me names and say where I come from is racist. I never even heard a racist term until I was up there. When you open your eyes to the truth, and here's my ender for tonight. Now, many of you might have known some of that, but most of you did not know all of that, what I just told you. That's a quick, concise version of how we got here. How socialism got introduced into our government. Some people's souls that they're so utterly perverted they will never come back. That there's some states, California's dead. They are dead. And how they got like that. So California used to be known as the land of the free and that kind of stuff. Education is more vital than you will ever know. You can only become a slave to anyone. And while there was no slavery, like in the sense of chains and corn and cotton fields and things like that, there is spiritual, and there's mental, and there's educational slavery, in which you will just do what the man tells you to do because you're afraid of that little badge coming or knocking on your door. The only way that we'll ever change anything as people, the only way that I will ever help people with mental illness to not get treated like crap is to teach them how to fight, not physically, not yet. I've got a feeling that's coming too. But with words, with logic, with education. It's what's kept me free. So as much as I was messed up in the head, I still had my education that I was learning, that I have taught myself, that kept me from being a slave and riding in Minneapolis. I would have never been like that. I could never be like that now. It's not logical. So think about that when you go through your week. That the only way you're ever going to be free of being controlled by others, and I don't mean being a baby child. I don't mean being a destructive force at work. I don't mean not obeying your boss. No, they have authority. You work for them. I'm talking about when you're walking down the street and you have the choice over these things, and you hear something evil and bad. So it gives you power to help that situation. We won't propagate lies here. I propagate the truth. If you don't like the truth, then what the hell are you doing here? None of us are here. Look, I think I am a pretty good speaker now, but I'm damn certain if I didn't have anything to say, nobody would be here. That's how you help. If you can't do anything else, I know finances are strapped. You can't help people with money either. That's that kind of thing. You know, but do not be mistaken. If I ask one of my people here for money and they can't do it, I'm not mad at you. I understand. The times are bad. I know that probably more than you do. So I'm very understanding of that. But on the streets, this is what we learned. Closed mouths don't get fed. They don't get fed. What's the worst you can do to me? Tell me no. If I don't say anything to you, then I know for sure you can't help me because I didn't ask you. So that goes to anybody. But besides all that physical stuff, you can help by educating yourself and then educating those around you. That's how you can help this situation, if nothing else. So that's what I'm trying to do. When you go to work every day and you hear something dumb, just listen and pay attention. If you don't know the answer, don't just give a false answer. Don't just jump in because you feel like you need to. Heck, you know what? If you guys are at work, whenever you're at work and you hear something you know is not correct, but you don't feel like you have enough information to speak up, get your ass on here on MyLIfe. Say something to me. We'll talk about it. So I'll give you some ammunition to throw up there. That's how it's done, baby. That's how it can be done, baby. Sophia does this all the time to me. She'll hear, especially back in the past when she didn't know as much about Scripture. She'd hear someone talk about the Bible, and she didn't know if she had the ability or even the knowledge to defend the Scriptures. She'd come home with it. Well, y'all can do that too. If you hear a family member say something you know is false, but you don't have the answer because you don't necessarily know the answer, but you know it's false, get your ass on here and talk to me. Hell yeah, that's a great conversation whenever that happens, man. I'll start writing down these subject matters, and we'll just have a conversation today about something maybe you need to talk about at work, so I can give you ammunition. But don't just open your mouth either, you know what I mean? So with that being said, I'm going to get to work. Love you guys. I hope I do a good job trying to trying to educate you guys on different things. I don't want to give you guys too big of a chunk, because like Tanya says, and like I already know, retention. I want you to retain what I'm saying, not just listen and go tomorrow not have any idea what I just said. All right? So I love you guys. Be safe when you're driving. Be safe when you get there. Be understanding of one another. Right? Be understanding of yourself, that you may not know all the information. That's okay. There's no sin in not knowing all the information. That's why we're all here together. We talk about this together. What I find so amazing is that a lot of people will not open their mouth out of fear. Well, that's not what we do here. Don't be scared when you're here, man. Talk about it when you're on here. Say, hey, I got this situation at work. I heard this thing happen, or I got a question for you. God, that's the best way to have this stuff happen. You know what I mean? So know that you can't do everything. That's why we help each other. Don't feel inferior just because you don't know the information. That's why I'm here. I try to do my best, and if I don't know, then I'll go find out for you. Trust me, that's what I do. Remember, life is fleeting. You are not promised your next breath. You're just not. So take now to go outside your box. Learn something new. You never know what you may learn about yourself, like information about different subjects. No one expects you to know history like me. Nobody expects you to know the Bible like me. But you need to know the basis of it. It helps you defend yourself, you know. And until tomorrow, behave yourself. Have a good night's sleep, y'all. May the Lord light guide you in all things.